Welcome to 2025 and welcome to the Rhi-lly Fucking Brutal podcast.
It's about to get really fucking brutal.
My name is Rhiannon and you are watching or listening to my very first podcast episode. I'm so happy you're here, and this, for some reason, feels so extremely foreign to me, although I have been online for what seems like forever, or at least making content forever, but sitting and talking and thinking that people might want to listen is intimidating. So bear with me, but I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for tuning in. I've been pondering with the idea, bouncing back and forth, of starting my podcast for a year, a little bit more. And I think I was waiting for a time that felt right, and I think I realized that was never going to come. So I decided to just sit the fuck down and get to business. So here we are, Rhi-lly Fucking Brutal. My podcast is meant to talk about mental health, disability, physical and mental illness, trauma, abuse, and so much more. I believe in advocating for these issues and the important social issues that affect our society today. And not only do I already do that with my own platforms online, I felt the need to bring it to another level, hence this podcast. One thing I'd expect for people to ask is, like, who am I and what gives me the right to speak on this, or why should you want to listen? And so I'd like to talk a little bit about myself. I already introduced myself. My name is Rhiannon. I am nearly 24 years old. It's almost my birthday. And that means I have gone almost 24 years of being abused. I was abused by strangers, by friends, by parents, by family, by anywhere in between. My entire life I was abused through multiple occurrences. And not only that, but having grown up almost 24 years, being raised in such an abusive and living through such an abusive childhood, teenage years, and early adulthood has given me a lot of trauma, but also given me a lot of insight and knowledge on what the fuck I'm talking about. So that's why we're here. Speaking of my childhood, I lived with my mother most of the time, but she was a completely absent parent. When she was around, it was abusive in many ways, and so my grandparents raised me more than my mother ever had, and I have a great relationship with them to this day. So my grandparents, I really owe it to them for raising me to be who I am today, because they've equipped me to be such a kind and understanding and generous person, and they've built up my character into who I am now. So, as well, in my childhood, like, my experience with mental health and disability started extremely young. Diagnosed as early as 3 years old with mental health and trauma. So, up until then, that's something, and for the rest of my life, that's how it'll be. But besides the physical, emotional, and sexual trauma that I endured from people that I should have trusted, I also, like many people, especially as a neurodivergent person, was bullied for the majority of my time growing up. And it was really hard. And that still affects me to this day. I think that's something that most people can say for their childhood. And that's unfortunate, and it doesn't make me special, but I've been through that even as an adult. Like, having a platform, you experience like harassment and bullying and trolls and people telling you to die. So I don't think bullying just stops because you're not a kid anymore. I'm someone who's been described as having a extremely complex mental and physical health. Um, I've been described as someone with extremely complex mental and physical health conditions, and to this day struggle to manage them and continue to progress towards trying to manage them. So I'm not in any way, I'm not talking in the past tense. Mental health and physical health is something I find I'm even more impacted by and affected by now than I was at a younger age because I wasn't aware of what was happening and I was neglectful of my own feelings and emotions. And I know I've already mentioned my platform a little bit, but with regards to being a content creator and someone who believes in using social media for good, I've been doing that dedicated almost 2 years now, with my Instagram predominantly, but I've been creating content and media, and I've always been a very artistic person since extremely young. I was making YouTube videos since elementary school. And that brings me back again to why did I not only start this podcast, but why did I decide to dedicate my social media towards raising awareness and advocating to issues that are important to me? 99.9% of what we are exposed to online is fake. I'm tired of being exposed to that 99.9%, and I was tired, and because I was guilty of it, of putting out and contributing to the content displayed by the 99.9%. And it was exhausting trying to be somebody I wasn't. It was exhausting trying to fit into a box that was impossible to fucking fit in. So I decided to just like let that guard down, completely erase the facade I had put up for 90% of my life at that point, and try something new and try doing what I was actually passionate about and wanted to speak about and wanted to share with people. And that's when things like changed for me in that sense. And I was like happy with what I was putting out on social media and happy with the how it was being received. I feel like I wasn't like trying to climb and climb and climb and reach for something that was obviously out of grasp anymore. I didn't care. I didn't care about the numbers. I didn't care about the views. I just cared about like the possibility of what I had to say affecting even one person one time. And I've gone up and above and beyond that, but that was like I didn't even have a goal. My goal was not to like gain attention. My goal was to just simply like break down the walls that society and social media continues to build up, that we need to not talk about these issues, and you're supposed to look this way, act, behave, and be living a certain lifestyle. It's okay if that's not true, because for 99.9% of the world, that isn't even fucking true. It's just what we're exposed to. 99.9% of people that are struggling don't want to share the fact that they're struggling, because 99.9% of people are sharing the opposite online. Enough. Had enough. I wanted to be part of that change. I wanted to do it for myself, number one, because it was taking a toll on my mental health so negatively. And I was able to realize that and make that change. That's basically also my goal with this podcast, like to continue building upon my exploration of myself and who I am and what I'm going through, and hopefully inspire others who happen to listen or happen to come across this, because I was somebody who needed to see this once upon a time, and all I could have asked for is to become that for someone else. So that's all I'm going to say for the first episode. And again, I'm so glad you're here, not watching and not listening, but still living. And I'm glad you made it to 2025, because if your 2024 was anything like mine, it was fucking brutal. But at least I made it to 2025, where I have the opportunity to have a less fucking brutal year. So I'm glad you're here and you're living. And in case no one's told you, lately, today, in the last hour, you are loved, you are valued. Your presence on this fucking earth is a blessing. So thank you so much. From here on out, I hope you're ready to get really fucking brutal. Bye.